The sands of Vyris IV burned like liquid metal beneath the two suns. Endless dunes stretched in every direction, shimmering under the oppressive heat. There was no shade, no breeze, only silence, a silence that could drive someone mad. A lone figure staggered across the desert. Her skin, the color of pale lilac, glistened under the sun's fury. Her long, silver hair, matted and tangled, whipped in the windless void, as though the air itself was alive with pity for her. Her name was Elyra, and she was alone, her ship destroyed, her crew gone. She had wandered for hours, searching for something, anything, that could save her. She dropped to her knees, her breath ragged, her strength gone. Tears welled in her silver eyes. It was foolish to cry here. Vyris IV would take those tears, too, just as it took everything else. "Please," she whispered, though no one was there to hear. Her voice was weak, barely rising above the eerie hum of the desert. She tilted her head toward the sky, watching as the suns glared back at her, unforgiving and unkind. "Is anyone out there? Help me?" And far, far above, someone heard her. On the bridge of an old cargo ship, Jack Tanner leaned back in his chair, one boot propped on the console as he nibbled on a protein bar. His ship, the Ridgeback, wasn't much, rust-streaked and held together by spit and hope, but she flew. And in this part of the galaxy, that was enough. The distress signal came as a faint ping on his outdated sensors. Jack frowned, pulling his boots off the dash and sitting up. "What now?" he muttered, flicking switches. A soft female voice crackled through the static, her words foreign, yet laced with desperation. It wasn't just any signal. It was someone's last hope. He rubbed his scruffy chin, considering. A rescue out here wasn't smart. The desert was notorious for swallowing ships whole, with its corrosive sands and electromagnetic storms. Pilots called Vyris IV the graveyard of the arrogant for a reason. But Jack had never been good at ignoring cries for help. The Ridgeback descended into the stormy atmosphere, fighting the pull of the desert winds. Jack wrestled with the controls, muttering curses as alarms blared. "Damn sands are like glue." Through the cockpit window, the dunes stretched endlessly below, waves of fire-colored dust shifting like an ocean in slow motion. Jack's sensors were unreliable this close to the surface, but he wasn't relying on them. He was flying toward the faint signal, a whisper in a dying storm. And then he saw her. A small figure collapsed in the sand, surrounded by endless nothingness. "Hang on," Jack murmured, angling the ship to land. The thrusters kicked up a storm of dust as he set the Ridgeback down, and he grabbed his respirator mask before racing out into the blistering heat. She was barely breathing when he reached her, her skin burning where the desert winds had torn her clothing. Jack crouched beside her, his voice rough but steady. "Hey, can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open, two pools of silver that seemed to see right through him. "Human," she whispered faintly. "Yeah, you're lucky it's me and not someone nastier," Jack muttered. He scooped her up, surprised at how light she was, and hurried back toward the ship. Elyra woke to the hum of engines. The air was cool, clean, a stark contrast to the suffocating heat of the desert. She turned her head, seeing Jack sitting across from her in the small med bay, tinkering with a battered datapad. "You're awake," Jack said, not looking up. "Good. I was starting to think I wasted fuel saving you." Elyra blinked slowly, her throat dry. "You heard me?" Jack glanced at her, raising an eyebrow. "Your signal?" "Yeah. Lucky for you, I was close enough to pick it up. Though I'll admit, it's not every day I rescue a purple lady from a space desert." She sat up slowly, wincing. "I am Elyra of the Cilyari. My ship crashed. My people," her voice faltered, the memory of the wreck still fresh. Jack sighed, setting the datapad down. Ghana? He ran a hand through his messy hair. I'm sorry. Elyra looked at him, studying the human who had saved her life. His face was rough, weathered by time and hardship, yet his eyes were kind. Why did you help me? She asked softly. Jack snorted. What kind of question is that? You were dying out there. But you are human, she said. The Silurian humans are not allies. Jack shrugged. Didn't much matter to me. Out here, you help when you can. He stood up, stretching. Anyway, you're safe now. I'll get you to a station where you can find your people or whatever you need. Elyra watched him, a strange warmth spreading through her chest. Thank you, Jack Tanner. You are kind. Jack grunted, as though uncomfortable with the compliment. Don't get all weepy on me, all right? The Ridgeback soared through the stars, carrying them far away from Vyris IV. Over the days that followed, Elyra's strength returned, though she remained quiet, often staring out at the stars with a wistful look in her silver eyes. One evening, as Jack sat in the cockpit sipping from an old mug, Elyra appeared beside him. What happens now? She asked. Jack raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I have no home to return to, Elyra said softly. My ship is lost. My people. She shook her head. I am alone. Jack frowned, setting down his mug. He looked at her for a long moment, then gestured to the ship around them. Well, I wouldn't say alone. You're here, aren't you? Elyra tilted her head. With you? Why not? Jack said with a shrug. The Ridgeback could use another pair of hands. And someone's got to make sure I don't fly into another sandstorm. A small smile touched Elyra's lips, the first Jack had seen. You are a strange human, Jack Tanner. Jack grinned. Yeah, well, strange is better than dead. Now sit down. I'll teach you how to read these controls before you break something. Elyra sat beside him, her gaze drifting to the stars outside. For the first time since the crash, she felt hope. And in the quiet hum of the Ridgeback, two lonely souls, one human, one alien, found something they didn't know they needed. A purpose, a friendship, and a chance to forge a new path among the stars.